So most of us in here have a younger sibling, and sometimes we're asked to babysit, and it's not the greatest thing in the world. But if you really think about it, it can be very simple and easy if you just learn how to babysit very well. So, like for instance, for me, I've been like babysitting since I was about 11 years old, and I love kids, so I've babysat infants all the way to about 9 years old. So I pretty much know a lot about babysitting. So today I'm going to teach you how to be a good babysitter. So I don't really have any items because most times they're like given to you. So, but some of the things that will be given to you are emergency contact list, first aid kit, and like coloring pencils, and basic things like that. So, like first thing is like safety with the kids. So for safety, you always should have your emergency contact list, because if you don't and something goes wrong, like who you're going to call, you don't know who you're going to call besides the police if you need to inform your parents. So you should always have the numbers, the contact numbers of their parents or somebody that's close to their family or guardian. The second thing is a first aid kit. If you don't have that, you should like get one right away, because taking care of children, they like to run around and play, and they can get hurt easily. So you should always like have a first aid kit to take care of them. So one of the things about taking care of kids, most people that take care of kids are just like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave the child by themselves. But you shouldn't do that, because children are very sneaky, and if they tend to like run around and stuff, and once the house is really quiet, that's how you know the child is doing something wrong. Like my brother, for instance, he will go into my parents' room and it will be really silent, and he'll take like Vaseline and rub it all over his face. And so like whenever the child is like very quiet, that means something is going wrong. So you should always have your eye on the children, because if you don't, they can like harm themselves, they can be in trouble, and sometimes they can die, like if you don't like watch them properly. Another thing is like, don't just leave the child by themselves. You should actually like play with them, because if you don't play with them, then they'll actually be like really bored, and you'll be bored yourself. Like don't actually just sit there and like bored and nothing. You should actually play with them, like get to know them, like learn things about them. And like one of the things about kids, they like to write on things. They like to write in books. They like to color. So you should always bring like markers, pencils, or like a coloring book or something like that to like entertain them. And if you can, if the weather's nice, you should go outside with them, like take them to the park or something, and make sure that they're having a good time. Like don't just sit in the house all day with the child. You should actually take care of them. And that's for like babysitting like ages like 6 or like 5 to 9. But if you're babysitting an infant, you should always know that they need to be fed like every 2 hours, and you need to like keep track of how much you're feeding them, because sometimes you can overfeed them or you can like starve them. So you shouldn't do that. You should always write down what you're giving them, how much formula you're feeding them, what time they ate. You should always like record what time they slept, what time they woke up, because that if you don't do that, then you will sometimes give them lack of sleep, or sometimes they'll oversleep too much and they'll have like irregular sleeping periods. So you should always like write down and observe what you're doing, so that because if you take them to the doctor will ask you like how they're doing, and like you'll tell them how they're doing. You can like show them what they've been doing. So you should always record that stuff. And so after listening to this speech, hopefully if like somebody comes up to you and asks you to like babysit their child, you won't think of it as a bad experience. You should always think of it as a good experience, because you can learn new things just by watching a child. So you should always remember that you should have your first aid kit. You should always have your emergency contact. You should always have like coloring books, pencils, and stuff like that to entertain them. Go outside, have fun. Don't always stay in the house and be like lonely and stuff. Like just sit there and do nothing. You should go outside and have fun with the kids. So hopefully after this, speech, you will, if you're asked to babysit, you won't think of it as a pressing situation. You won't just sit there and just say yes because you want money or something. But you should actually have fun while you're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.